at 5. Welcome to the 330 Sports Show. My name is Justin Coffin. Today is Thursday, December 3rd, 2020. As you can see, we're in a different studio today. We're going to call this Studio B down at Youngstown Studios. We are produced by Joe Danier's Youngstown Studio Network. And on today's show, we're going to get into a lot of different things in the sports world. We're going to talk Steelers and Ravens from yesterday. We'll take a look at the AFC playoff picture and how that pertains to the Browns. We'll talk about college football, the playoff committee rankings released on Tuesday night. We'll talk about different cancellations and the Buckeyes and things to that nature. We'll check in with the NBA and some other news around the sports world. There was a major trade last night in the NBA. But before we get into all of that, we're going to lead off today with the head coach of Youngstown State University men's basketball, Jerrod Calhoun. The Penguins have been under quarantine for a little bit, but they got back to action on the practice court yesterday. And they are really highly thought of in the Horizon League Conference. They're preseason ranked number 2 in the Horizon League Conference behind Wright State. So, we're expecting a lot out of the Penguins this year, and Coach Calhoun has done a great job since he's taken over in 2017. So I'm going to throw it over to that interview we did on Zoom last night. So take a listen. All right. Hi, everybody. This is Justin Coffin, 330 Sports Show. Joining me today is the head coach of the Youngstown State men's basketball team, Coach Jerrod Calhoun. Coach, welcome, and thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Justin. Excited to be on.
Absolutely. Well, so Coach, you're obviously the 13th head coach in the Youngstown State men's basketball history. You're entering, I believe, your 4th season coming in now. So you were hired on March 27th, 2017. So every single year, you started out your first year, you guys had 8 wins. Next year you had 12 wins, and last year you had 18 wins. So you are dramatically improving every single season. What do you attribute that to?
I think a lot of hard work by the players and the staff. It's just all part of building a program. I think the kids have really bought into our vision when we arrived here of, really reflecting the city of Youngstown, playing for something bigger than yourself, and really buying into a team concept. It's been really neat to see, and we're really, really excited about what this team we have in store for this team. I think our team is very, very eager to start. Today is our first practice, but it's been a lot of fun, Justin. A lot of hard work, but a lot of fun.
Awesome. And you had mentioned, I'm going to, I guess, address the elephant in the room. You had mentioned today's your first practice. Obviously, you guys were shut down and quarantined. So how is your life as a coach right now different than it was, at this time last year?
Well, last week it was really miserable. I ended up coming down with this virus. So it was not a pleasant experience, but it's been difficult. Our players, dating back to last March, we qualified for a postseason tournament, unable to play in that tournament. Really felt terrible for our group. But then you soon realize that this pandemic is much bigger than sports and a very, very serious matter. So, it's been difficult. So much about building a team is spending time together and working together, on a daily basis. We've been away from our team now 21 days. I think we've practiced 6 times in the month of November. So we're going to really, really have to get up to speed on some things and, really do the best we can in a very, very short period of time. But we're going to try to play a week from today. We'll be able to get 6 practices in, and then we're going to play next Wednesday here in the Bigley Center. So we're excited about that.
That's great. Yeah, and I know you have a very strong roster coming back. I believe you guys were voted second preseason in the league, and I believe it's you guys and Wright State and Northern Kentucky right up there in the top 3. So
So what's your expectations for this season? You don't have to put a win-loss total on it, but what are we expecting out of the Penguins this year?
Yeah, I think, we've said all along when we got here, we want to play in the NCAA tournament. We want to be part of something that's never been done, and that's our guys' goal, and that's something that we strive to do daily. We've got a lot of work to do because we're really, really far behind, but the conference starts December 19th, so we've got about 18 days before we start league play, which is a good amount of time to get ready. And then we're going to have, anywhere from we're hoping up to 5 non-conference games before we have hit that date. So, right now I'm just looking forward to getting back on the floor, taking it day by day. We still don't have all of our guys back today, but I would say we have about 80% of our players are back. So, the journey begins. It's exciting. There's a lot of great college basketball games on right now. This time of year is exciting right after the holiday, tons of good games. It's a great time. So we're looking forward to it.
Very good. Very good. Now you obviously, the two names a lot of people that follow you guys will recognize are Darius Quisenberry and Naz Bohannon. And I believe you have 6 seniors total on your roster. Who should we look out for? Obviously we know those 2 names really well, but who else should we be looking out for in the roster this year?
Yeah, those 2 guys have been around. They've played in a lot of meaningful games, whether it's non-conference or conference. Both those guys had fabulous seasons last year. They were tremendous throughout the year. I think Garrett Covington is a kid that, he's another senior that his offense has gotten so much better in the last 5 or 6 months. He's a 2-time defensive on the all defensive team. Michael Akuche is vastly improved, really, really high ceiling, a stretch 4-man that's 6'8", does a great job of rebounding the ball. We've got a lot of new good young players, good young pieces, a lot of freshmen that I think our fans are really going to gravitate to and really like their potential. Christian Bentley has been really good, another senior. Has been really, really good over the last couple of weeks when we last saw him. So, we've got a good mixture, Justin. We've got, 6 seniors. And then, of course, we've got 7 freshmen. We've got 5 true freshmen, 2 red shirts, and Daniel Agoro and Kenny Ganley. So it's a good blend of old and new.
Okay. All right. Very good. Looking at some of your stats from last year, you guys scored about 75 points a game, if I saw that correctly, and gave up just a little bit under that, about 74 and a half. So what kind of style do you want to play this year? Do you want to slow it down, or do you want to get out and run a little bit more?
Yeah, I think, we did a good job last year of increasing our scoring totals. Would like to see that around 80 points a game. We've got to be better, probably 4 or 5 possessions better on the defensive side. We got to hold teams under 70 points. We've got to guard the 2-point field goal percentage better. We've got to defensive rebound the basketball a little bit better. We're not the biggest team. But our guys, I think, understand what we have to do to take the next step on both sides of the ball. You have to be good offensively and defensively. You got to really be in the top half in both those sides if you want to finish in the top half of the league. So we've done a lot of things, leading up to this point to talk with our guys about that. And I think they understand the steps we have to take.
Okay. All right. Very good. Now, obviously, this year has thrown a curveball at everybody, especially, coaches and administrators. Do you guys know the status of fans this year, or what's going to be allowed?
Yeah, I think right now we're going to be allowed to have 300 fans in the building. That could change with one press conference from our governor, Governor DeWine. I know our athletic department and our league has done a tremendous job of really keeping us up to date on, everything's changing, right? Everything changes really on a daily basis, whether it's the CDC, whether it's at a national level, local level. I think our plan is to get 300 fans in here next Wednesday and Thursday for 2 home games. but things are changing. So we'll have to wait and see if that happens. I hope for our players' sake, love to see their families in here to be able to watch them. And of course, we have so many loyal fans. Last year I think we set the most wins in a season at home, and that was really because we fed off of our fans. Some of the crowds that we saw at the end of the year, the Northern Kentucky Wright State games, people waiting outside, lined up, wrapped around the building. It was just a testament to the people of Youngstown. These people are diehard sports fans. The team really means a lot to them, and we just really rallied around our fans. So we'd love to see them in here, but unfortunately, there's a lot of things these days that I don't have any say in the matter.
Absolutely. Coach, I got to ask you, about a little bit about your background and other coaches you've worked with. You obviously played for Raleigh Massimino at Cleveland State, a legend in the game, and obviously with coaching with Bob Huggins down at West Virginia. Tell us a little bit about what it was like working with those guys and learning from them, and some of that background.
Yeah, I probably made a great decision to go to Cleveland State and play for a Hall of Fame coach in Raleigh Massimino. Learned so much, Justin, really just how to manage a program. He was very, very family oriented, had the players over his house all the time, was a great tactician on changing defenses, was unbelievable in scouting reports, had us prepared for every game. Just learned so much as a player, and that's really kind of sparked my interest of wanting to get into coaching. That was a big reason why I went to Cleveland State to play for him, because I wanted to coach someday. So that was a great experience. And then I got very, very fortunate to get linked up with Coach Bob Huggins after my playing days, and became a student assistant at the University of Cincinnati. And, probably, one of the greatest coaches that we'll ever see in the history of the game. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, should already be in, but I'm sure he'll be up next year and finally get inducted. Has a chance to win 1,000 games, has a chance to be the all-time winningest coach the game's ever seen. Another top 10 team this year. So just learned so much from him on, practice. I think he's the best practice coach in America. I think the accountability, holding guys accountable, the relationship piece of it, and just really allowing his assistant coaches to coach. He treated us like head coaches. He allowed us to be head coaches in his system. So I felt like when I left him, I was really, really ready to step into that, the next seat and take the next step.
Awesome. Very cool. Coach, I just got two more random questions for you, and then I'll let you go. First of all, thoughts on a possible bubble if you guys are able to make the NCAA tournament. They were talking about possibly putting a bubble in Indianapolis. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I love it. I love Indianapolis. Have great memories there. Was part of a Final Four team in 2010 that played in Indianapolis. I think it's a great idea. I think we have to protect this tournament. The tournament means so much to so many universities from a financial standpoint. There's nothing better than March Madness, probably one of the greatest sporting events we've ever seen. The whole country kind of, gets around this tournament and watches it. So I love the idea. I think it's going to work. I think it's going to be exciting. And, we're just hoping that it could be us, be a part of that. It would be historic and something that we could, always look back on in 2020 during these crazy times. I think it's going to be the team that, can deal with a lot of adversity. You've got to be very, very strong during these times, stick together, have a team first mentality. And there's going to be a lot of ups and downs this year, but I think that tournament's going to be really special.
Very good. Very good. And Coach, I like to ask this question to coaches, but I don't want to put you on the spot too much. So I don't want to ask you who your best player you've ever coached is, but I want to ask who is the best player you've ever coached against, in your opinion?
Well, back in the Big East, there was so many of them. That at that point, the Big East was rocking and rolling. But I'll bring you back to my AAU days, and I coached against LeBron James.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
he's by far the best that I've ever seen through high school, and then obviously what he's done now. I think he's the greatest player to ever play. And I actually got to coach him in a game. That was kind of neat too.
Okay.
He was on my team for one game. So I would say LeBron James.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's a pretty easy answer there. All right. Well, Coach, best of luck to you guys going forward. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day, and we're happy that you're able to get back out on the court today. And good luck to you in the Horizon League and going forward. And best wishes to the Penguins this year.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Coach. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks again to Coach Calhoun for taking time out of his day. Obviously, this year is throwing so much at coaches, administrators, just players, everybody. Trumbull, like I said yesterday, Trumbull County is all remote learning right now at schools, so a lot of those athletics are shut down, whereas Mahoning hasn't crossed that threshold yet. So it's just a crazy year. And you heard Coach Calhoun say, they've practiced about 6 times in the month of November. Normally that's when you're ramping up and getting all your game plans in, and you're getting all this, the information and terminology, and, finding out which guys are going to step up. So, tough job, but I think if anybody can handle it, they can. They're over at YSU, and they have a nice roster coming back, and hopefully they can make some noise in the Horizon League. And going forward, you heard him say, one of their big goals is to make the NCAA tournament, and that would be really, really cool to see the Penguins in the tournament. So let's change gears now. We're going to talk a little bit about the NFL. Yesterday we had a Wednesday game in the NFL for the first time second time in the modern era. There were games played way back over 100 years ago on Wednesdays, but this is the second game to be played. I believe the last one was in 2012. And that game was moved from a Thursday night to the night before on a Wednesday night because they didn't want to bump it up against the Democratic National Convention. And that would have been the night Barack Obama was speaking back in 2012. So Tony Romo was the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, and they actually won that game in 2012. And obviously yesterday the Steelers and Ravens took the field, and the Steelers came out victorious. They did not look very impressive in the game. I actually, and I know what the stats are. I know what the math says, but I found myself rooting for the Ravens in that game. I really did. It was a sloppy game. Big Ben threw an interception early on that it was just, he just threw it up in the end zone, and Baltimore picked it off. But, RG3 was the quarterback for a while. And, Joe, I even saw you posted, he has made a glass. Yes. And, I feel for that guy because he was a great college quarterback and rookie of the year back in 2012 or 2013. And, obviously he's fallen off the wayside there. But, I think, you say what you say about the Steelers, but, at the end of the day, they are 11-0. And again, I found myself rooting for the Ravens, but for the Browns' playoff chances, it was best they lost. So let's take a look at the updated AFC playoff picture. Now this was during the game. I took the screenshot, so it shows Pittsburgh at 10-0. Now they're 11-0, and it shows Baltimore at 6-4. They are now 6-5. So, and you can see New England still hanging on by a thread there at the end in the hunt. But we'll get to the Tennessee Browns game a little bit later on. But you can see, this is it's a cluster here right now. So you got the division leaders. You got Pittsburgh 10-0, Kansas City 10-1, Tennessee 8-3, and Buffalo 8-3. Those are your division leaders, and just a very, very tough AFC. Now, the wild card teams, I think it's kind of, it's going to be interesting to see who makes it, because Vegas still has a chance. Baltimore still has a chance to get in there. The Browns have a tiebreaker over Indy, but Miami's played a tough schedule. They're doing a pretty nice job this year. They're surprising some people. But for the Browns, to finish off their schedule, Joe, do we have a clip of the Browns schedule? It's on one of those thumbnails. A little bit more forward, right there. So I'm gonna throw up the Browns schedule for the rest of the year, and we're just gonna take a little peek at it here in a second. But obviously the Browns play the Tennessee Titans this weekend. They have a little bit of revenge from last year. If you remember last year, the Browns had all that hype coming into last season.
Oh, yeah.
And the Titans just blew the doors off them last year. It ended up being something like 40-19 or so. I don't remember what the score was, but the Titans just knocked the Browns out game 1 last year and pretty much set the tone for the rest of the season. The Browns have a little bit of payback this year. This game is going to be a game of attrition, really. I think it's going to be a game of, it's going to be one in the trenches. You have 2 of the best running games in the league. You have Derrick Henry for the Titans, and you have Chubb and Hunt for the Browns. And if I'm coaching those teams, I'm running the ball. The Browns defense struggles to stop the run. The Tennessee defense is a little suspect. So, but I think, your quarterbacks, Ryan Tannehill for the Titans and obviously Baker for the Browns, are going to have to step up and make a couple plays. So let's take one more peek at that schedule and just look, as a coach, you look head to head, but, we're fans. We're looking at the whole picture here. Browns sitting at 8-3. You played the 11 games. You got 5 games left. So you're looking, we got the Titans, then we got the Ravens at home on a Monday night. Then you got the 2 New York teams, which the Giants are playing pretty well. Not bottom feeders, but the Jets very well could go 0-16. And then you got the Steelers at home, and who knows what their situation is going to be like this year.
They looked beatable yesterday. I'm telling you,
they looked very, very beatable, and I wonder for 2 reasons. That I wonder if they kind of saw that some of the Ravens players were out, and they had some COVID issues of their own. They had James Conner was out, their starting running back, Tuitt, one of their linemen, and they had 1 or 2 other guys on the list that were their starting center, Pouncey, was on that list as well. So they weren't without fault, but I think 2 reasons. One, they saw who Baltimore didn't have, namely Lamar Jackson and a lot of their skill guys, but so maybe they didn't show up with as much like oomph, if that's what you want to say, in the game. And number 2, I think the Steelers are a very, very good team. I don't think they're as good as their record shows, and I'm probably going to get some heat on that from Steelers fans. But they are what they are. They're 11-0, and give them credit where credit's due. But,
you know what I heard yesterday, and the Kansas City fans were really talking smack with Pittsburgh. They're like,
I'm
hey,
sure.
Enjoy your 10-0 because we're about to knock you out of the AFC like nobody's business.
And I got a question for you. If you had to take Kansas City right now or the field, so the remaining 31 teams, you eliminate obviously the teams that are out of the playoffs, but so you can either take Kansas City or the field in a bet to win the Super Bowl. Who are you taking?
Kansas City,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I think 100% I'm taking Kansas City too. I think the toughest matchups for Kansas City are probably in the AFC. The teams that, Pittsburgh would probably give them a decent game, but I think teams like the Titans, or possibly the Bills, or possibly even the Browns. The Browns' defense is really suspect, but the key to beating Kansas City is keep the ball away from them. They can score at will, and Patrick Mahomes is just so good. you saw what they did in the first quarter against Tampa. Hill, the wide receiver, had 200 yards in the first quarter against Tampa, who's a decent defense. But Kansas City, to me, looks head and shoulders above everyone else.
Yeah.
If I had to say, but we'll see how that all plays out. There is 5 games left,
And COVID is still in the equation too.
COVID is
So
in the equation.
what the hell will they do if they get to the later stages of the playoffs and the quarterback comes down with it? Do they delay stuff, or is it sorry for your luck?
From what I understand, the NFL has something in place with a Week 18, and if they go to a Week 18, they are going to add another playoff spot. So there's going to, instead of 7, normally there's 6 playoff spots. This year they made it 7, and if it goes to a Week 18, they're going to add another one and go for an 8th playoff spot. So a lot of Pittsburgh fans, from what I heard, were saying, well, Baltimore's just trying to cancel this game to get it to Week 18 so, they can, be in the playoffs no matter what. I've even heard that with New England. If they can win out and get to 10-6 or possibly even 9-7, they would. I don't know. There's some conspiracy theories. I heard an interesting conspiracy theory today. I'm a little bit off topic here, but I heard a conspiracy theory today about Bill Belichick, and they play the Jets. I think it's the last game of the season, and obviously if the Jets go 0-16, they're going to get Trevor Lawrence, who is immediately going to make them better. So I heard someone say, would Bill Belichick intentionally lose that game to cost the Jets the number 1 pick so he doesn't have to face Trevor Lawrence 2 times a year? I thought that was an interesting point, and I would not put anything past Bill Belichick.
No.
The hoodie.
No.
I would not put anything past that
The
guy.
dude is wicked smart up
But
there. And
he's so smart, he would lose a game so it didn't cost him future games he would lose.
yes,
So
for sure.
2 other notes from that game. One, from the Steelers-Ravens game. The Steelers lost another impact player. They lost Devin Bush earlier in the year to an ACL tear, actually, in the Browns game. But in this game, they lost another impact player in their defense, Bud Dupree, with another ACL injury. So that's a really, really tough loss. And again, you never wish injury on anybody, especially a guy like him who has really stepped up, made a name for himself, and he's going to be a free agent in the offseason. So hopefully that doesn't cost him money.
Yep.
I do want to have Joe bring up another clip here of a couple first down markers. So in the Browns game the other day, there was a 4th down play, and you might remember the referees spotting the ball, and then to me it looked like the spot was clearly beyond the chain. And if you take a look, for those of you listening on a podcast, it's going to be hard, so I'll try to explain it the best I can. But so we're showing a comparison between the Browns and the Steelers. On the left hand side, we have what the Steelers, what was called a first down yesterday, and they appeared to be 2-3 inches short based on the picture. And I understand there's angles, there's different things like that, but they are clearly behind the front of the chain.
Yes.
And then in the Browns-Jaguars game, in a game that play actually mattered, because that meant the Jaguars were going to get the ball back. You can clearly see the nose of the ball is
behind.
It's past, especially compared to where that Steelers is. And I don't want to get into being a baby or anything, or complaining about the referees, but I need some clarity on this. Where is an actual first down? If somebody's listening or watching, write in if you have better knowledge of this on me, because I just need some consistency from these referees.
My whole life has been about getting robbed by referees when as a Browns fan, right? It doesn't seem like forever. If it could go down either way, you always get the shaft.
Yeah. No, and the very bottom of this picture, you can kind of make out it's 27-19. Browns are up, so it's 8-point game, 1-score game, and there's 5 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. So that play ended up giving giving Jacksonville back the ball, and they had a chance to go down and tie it, and so just it's frustrating. It's frustrating.
But every coach said that if it comes down to a referee play, you're doing something wrong anyway, right?
You're probably right on that. I don't want to complain too much, but yeah, that's the nature of the game. Don't let leave the game in the referee's hands.
That's right. Or you got to learn how Bill Belichick is always on the receiving end of those calls. What he does, it could be Christmas gifts, buying a glass of wine, something like that.
Right. Or him and Tom Brady deflating the football.
Right.
In the back.
Yes. Right.
All right. So I am actually, there's no Thursday night game this week because of all the scheduling changes and stuff. So I'm not going to make picks this weekend. I'll post them later on our Twitter and Facebook page, and then we'll talk about those later in the week. But I'd like to switch now to Ohio State and what they're dealing with right now. So last week, the Ohio State game was canceled, and we talked about that on the last show. The Ohio State game was canceled against Illinois. They were scheduled to fly to Illinois on a Saturday morning, which was weird in general, but that game ended up getting canceled. As of now, knock on wood, and I'm going to knock on this beautiful table that Joe made for the studio back here. But as of now, it's all systems go for Ohio State. They do have some players out. Ryan Day has come down with COVID-19, and he will not coach in this game. So they're not going to be at full strength, but they're still, I think it's somewhere around a 23.5-point favorite this weekend against Michigan State, who did upset Northwestern last weekend. So Michigan State is not a team to be taken lightly. They have upset Ohio State in the past multiple times. So with that said, hopefully we can get this game in. Now, the Big Ten has really pretty much stitched themselves in a corner with not having much flexibility with these schedules. And obviously, as an Ohio State fan, this has affected me and anyone out there that's watching that's an Ohio State fan. The Maryland game earlier on got canceled. This game with Illinois got canceled. The Maryland game was not Ohio State's doing. That was Maryland's doing. This game was Ohio State's doing, but it is what it is. So the Big Ten has a rule that a team must play 6 games to qualify for the Big Ten title game. So with that said, if Ohio State gets one of these next 2 games canceled, they are currently by rule ineligible to play in the Big Ten title game, which is not good. It's not a good look for the conference. It's not a good look for multiple reasons, because Ohio State's your big money team. They're gonna draw an audience, and let's just say hypothetically it's Northwestern versus Indiana. That is not going to get people to watch. That is not going to get eyes. So I think, and I'm not saying the Big Ten should change the rules for Ohio State, but I am saying you have a team in your conference that has a chance to not just be in the top 4, they have a chance to win a national title, and I think you need to give them that opportunity to play. So, because right now their game against Michigan next week is up in the air. Michigan canceled their game this week, and there's a whole other story right there, because there's been speculation and rumors out there that Michigan has thrown up the white flag, and their fans want no part of another beatdown by Ohio State. And so my only alternative that I can say right now is, if especially next, let's just hope everything goes right and Ohio State's able to get their game in this week. If everything goes right this weekend, they're 5-0 going into Michigan. Michigan actually comes to Ohio State next week. Let's hypothetically say Michigan cancels. I think Ohio State should be able to schedule any team in the country to be able to play, whether that's another Big Ten team. I heard somebody even say, what about Nebraska again? If Nebraska gets their game canceled, play them again. Who cares, is to get that 6th game. I've heard if they had to cancel the Michigan State game, I've heard tons of theories and conspiracies. What if Ohio State says, you know what, we'll forfeit the game to get that on our win-loss record, so it's like we played the game, but we actually didn't, and then the committee's not going to factor in that loss, but technically you've played that, or that game's on your record. I don't like that idea, but it's something that I've heard, so I don't know.
You know, like the NASCAR guys at the beginning of the season, they virtually played, like they played like the NASCAR game against one another. What if you take the team that doesn't end up, the best ranked team that doesn't end up going to the playoffs because of it, and having a virtual playoff in some kind of like Madden-like environment? Wouldn't that be cool?
That would be cool, but I want to see him play the game. I want to see him play the game. We'll play the virtual tournaments in March or April. But yeah, that's not a terrible idea for some of these guys, especially if they get locked down. That'd be kind of cool. Like say when Ohio State and Maryland got canceled a couple weeks ago. Have a Maryland Ohio State virtual game. But
I'd watch it once. It would. I couldn't even like the NASCAR thing. It was cool that one time, but then when it's not really a competition.
Right, exactly. But just for me, so bad. As an Ohio State fan, I just want to see that team on the field because the last game kind of had a bad taste left in our mouth because Indiana came back and scored all those points in the second half to make it a fairly close game. So I'm just going to leave it out there and say, fingers crossed that Ohio State plays this weekend. Fingers crossed that they're able to play Michigan next weekend, which... Can you throw that schedule back up there? I borrowed this from fake Urban Meyer on Twitter, and you can see it's the Sadden Harbaugh again game, which would be at noon on Fox. And then be able to play either probably...
Stupid Rutgers.
either play Wisconsin or most likely Northwestern in the Big Ten title game. So, fingers crossed again, the Ohio State's able to do that and stay in the top four. They did stay in the top four in the committee's eyes this weekend, even not playing, and as they should, because really, I understand the argument for Alabama. Alabama has looked like the most dominant team all year. Clemson, they're a great team who their one loss to Notre Dame was without their star quarterback and a few other impact players on their defense. And Notre Dame obviously beat Clemson. So, I have zero problem with those teams being the top three. And I have also zero problem with Ohio State being 4. To me, you need to find that clear-cut favorite to challenge Ohio State or whoever. But if Ohio State wins their league, and I really don't think, even if they play or not in the Big Ten title game, I think the committee puts them in if they're undefeated. Just one other note for the Ohio State game this weekend. This is a very, very cool note. As I said earlier, Ryan Day will not be coaching in the game, with the COVID protocols, and we wish him well. And from what I understand, he's doing fine. But Larry Johnson, who is the defensive line coach for Ohio State, former coach at Penn State, but he will be the Buckeyes head coach this weekend. And what is cool about that, he will be the first African-American head coach in Ohio State history. So even if it's for one game, it's just kind of a cool honor for him. And it shows the respect that the people in the program have for him as a great coach. He has, he's brought in and coached up the Bosa brothers and Chase Young and, so many other NFL talents that, the defensive line loves him. And he is a guy that doesn't yell, scream, swear. He's a very just well-respected guy in that locker room, and props to him because he deserves it. And, even if it's only for one game, it just kind of shows when Ryan Day took over for Urban Meyer those couple games before, it just shows the respect that the program has for a guy like him. So just a cool thing for him and the Buckeyes. So let's just get a win against Sparty this week, and hopefully get our chance to take on the team up north next week. So we'll get more into that next week, and hopefully we're able to
lead up.
Yeah, the lead up to the game. Can we go to the college football playoff top 25 rankings here? So we're going to bring this up. Obviously, like I said, Alabama 1, Notre Dame 2, Clemson 3, Ohio State 4. The committee has Texas A&M, Florida, Cincinnati, Georgia, Iowa State, and Miami rounding out the top 10. Now, I think BYU is getting a little disrespect, and something cool that happened that's going to happen this week. Coastal Carolina, who is undefeated and number 18 in the committee's eyes, had their game against Liberty, who was also ranked in the top 25, canceled this weekend because of an outbreak at Liberty. BYU had an open date as well, so those teams scheduled to play each other. So BYU is traveling to Myrtle Beach to play that game against Coastal Carolina. College Game Day will be there. Very cool, because those are teams that don't. BYU's had some moments in the past, but Coastal Carolina especially, this is their year. This is their year, their time to shine, and so College Game Day will be there, and just a cool moment. But something I want to share that a viewer shared with me is the underreporting of college football false positives with this COVID stuff. So, and I'm going off of what this viewer wrote to me, because I thought this was really, really interesting. Penn State, I'm going to use them as an example, had 43 false positive tests, according to a Pittsburgh Post-Gazette story on November 18th. Kentucky, Northwestern, Oregon, Tennessee, UCLA have all confirmed that they have players initially test positive, only to test negative in a follow-up test. The UTEP Rice game this past Saturday was canceled on game day because of what turned out to be 10 false positive tests. So very frustrating. They took all their kids there Friday. They flew in. They get on a plane. They do another round of tests and find out, somebody, X amount of people tested positive. And then later you find out those tests ended up being false positives. So they don't play a game that they really could have played. And, just a really frustrating situation for a lot of those teams. So earlier this season, Georgia State and Charlotte was canceled due to false positives. Just some other really just frustrating things in this world. And, I know we're all going to err on the side of caution. It's just, but it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating, especially when you're, a kid that is hoping to play in this game or maybe showcase yourself for the NFL, and you work all week. And like I've said from the beginning of the year, practice, but then your reward is playing in that game.
That's exactly right.
And then you don't get to do what you love. Nothing against practice, because practice is what you need. But, the showcase in the game is so important to so many of these college kids. And it's not just about these top 25 rankings. It's about all 130 college teams playing right now. It's like these guys put in the work. They deserve it. They worked hard in high school to earn a scholarship or whatever it might be to play. And you got some guys that walk on that are paying their tuition, but walk on and trying to play football. And for me, it's just it's frustrating, because what these guys put into it, but they don't necessarily get the reward out of it. So 2020 is just it's just its own unique year in itself, and it is what it is. So
yeah, but like our governor even took one of those tests, and he got a 50-50.
It was right before he was supposed to meet with Trump, wasn't
right?
it?
Yeah. And then Elon Musk took 4 tests. 2 of them came back positive. 2 of them came back negative.
Okay.
So the reliability of these things is suspect.
Yeah, very, very true. And again, you got to err on the side of caution, but if your test isn't reliable, why are you still using that test?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what to think about that. All right, I want to switch to some NBA news and notes real quick before we wrap up the show in about 10 minutes. I'm going to first have Joe put up. This is like Cavs Media Week. So the Cavs premiered this new City Series uniform this week. Now, this won't be their main uniform, but they'll use this in some games. There's been mixed reviews. I personally like it. I think it kind of gives some people say homage to the
nice.
city. So I personally like it. I like the script of it, and it's kind of like Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Like it's a tip of the hat to that. So what do you think, Joe? You like it?
Yeah, that's decent. It's different.
I think it's kind of like, it's kind of a cool Cleveland flair, and I like the colors that go with it. Again, I don't really care too much about uniforms and jerseys, but if it produces more wins for the Cavs on the court,
there you go.
Then I'm all for them.
So what personalities on the team can pull that off?
Gosh, well, the Cavs are a very, very young team, and I have a Cavs preview show that I'm hoping to do in a week or two before they get their season going. But I think Colin Sexton they featured in that, and Darius
Could have a
Garland.
sassy personality.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
and he's the dude to do it too.
All right.
He's got that stare and that lockdown look that'll get you going. So overall, jersey's cool, but nothing. Again, do jerseys really matter? Who cares? Let's go out and just win some games. And
What'd you think of Mr. LeBron's monster contract extensions?
Yeah, and LeBron. Well, Anthony Davis even more so. LeBron. He re-upped for 2 years. I didn't see the exact number.
85 million, I think.
85. Okay.
Yeah.
So 2-year, $85 million contract, and that doesn't even kick in until next year. So that's an extension. So, but something that's kind of cool about LeBron's contract is I think that'll keep him to the Lakers till 2023, which even saying that now in 2020 sounds like so much longer in the future. But 2023 is the year probably his son will be eligible to be drafted into the NBA. So in the back of my mind, think LeBron wants to stick around long enough
To hand his uniform to his kid, right?
Yeah, either hand it over or to possibly play on the same team with him for a season.
Would that be sweet?
How cool would that be?
That would.
I remember Ken Griffey and Ken Griffey Jr. doing that once, and they hit back-to-back home runs. And to me, that was one of the coolest moments I've ever seen in sports. Like, I saw the replay of it later and still got, chills from it. But, yeah, you mentioned LeBron's contract, and then they just re-signed Anthony Davis.
They're spending some money out there on that coast.
They got a little bit of money locked up into those two guys. But if you give me Anthony Davis and LeBron James on my team, I'd say give me 12 other guys to fill out my roster.
Cares?
I'll take my chances.
We'll take all rookies and those two. Oh yeah,
exactly. If you can just surround them with a couple shooters, a couple guys that can play defense, that's a team that's probably going to be favored to win the title at least next year, if not the next 2, possibly 3 years going forward.
Crazy.
So. And one other big basketball trade yesterday, Russell Westbrook was traded to the Washington Wizards for John Paul and another first-round pick. So that's a huge trade in the NBA. Two guys that I feel like both teams are kind of selling low on, but they're kind of maybe on new places, new faces. Kind of change up might help them. So speaking of new changes, new faces and new places will be something the Indians don't have to worry about next year. Tyler Naquin and Delino DeShields probably both gone from their outfield, which, Tyler Naquin had one awesome moment with the Indians where he had a walk-off inside the park home run, and he kind of does the little rock out, thing with his hand. But I don't know. The Indians outfield has been really bad the last, as long as I can remember, the last 10, 15 years. It's been not very good.
But I'll take a shakeup. I think this is a good shakeup here.
And the Indians, I think, and a lot of these teams are really pushing financial crunch because they don't know what's going to happen next year with fans. And, these teams have lost millions and millions and millions of dollars. So the Indians have really shaved down their payroll, and they're going to a youth movement. Something that I think could be exciting, and we'll talk about this more in the spring when baseball is coming around, but there's a player in the Indians farm system called his name's Nolan Jones, and he's technically a third baseman, but I think he can be. If you can play third base, you can probably play the outfield. But this kid is known for having a very high upside with his bat, and if his defense can just be marginable, I think he can really do some things for the Indians, possibly Rookie of the Year or something, but I don't want to put that pressure on him this early, but I think he can do some damage. So
pitching and bats, that's all we need.
Yeah, that's it. That's all we need. But the Indians do have still a good pitching staff, but their hitting is real suspect. So
Yep.
obviously, big Browns game this weekend. That's kind of going to be my main focus.
It will illustrate a lot. If you think
really
that
will.
they are a caliber that can take on some of the upper echelon teams, this week will play it out.
And if you look at the Browns schedule, at worst they should finish 2-3, which would put them at 10-6. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that they can beat one of Tennessee, Baltimore, or Pittsburgh. Those are the three.
Are you locking it? Those are your predictions?
No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say they're going to beat all of them. I'm going to say.
Well, give me your prediction for this week.
Oh,
we'll start there.
All right. I'm taking the Browns. I think it's going to be a close game. I think Baker makes a big play, but they rely on the run game, and the defense steps up. If they can hold the Titans to under 24 points, I think the Browns win. So I'm going to say the Browns win 31-24. I'm going to say 31-24 Browns. Nick Chubb has a big day. Kareem Hunt gets in the end zone, and the defense hopefully makes a play, and Baker doesn't cost us the game. Let's just say that. So,
I think we're going shootout again. I think we're going to go revert to what we did in the beginning of the season, where we're going to, even with OBJ, we're still going to start, going to our wide receivers and letting the run happen later on in the game. So I think it's a high scoring game, but they get this one. I think they're actually going to struggle with the lesser teams towards the end of the season. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't see if a Jets game was a coin flip later on.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Giants are playing good football, and you can't, again, the NFL, you can't take any team for granted, and
for sure.
Hopefully the Browns come ready to play these last 5 weeks and
Amen.
And go into the playoffs on a good note. So, and obviously we hope the Buckeyes play too. Fingers crossed.
Yes.
So we'll get into all that stuff next week. But I would like to thank Coach Calhoun again from YSU for joining us on the show. Good luck to him and his squad. The Penguins are, high hopes for them this year, and fingers crossed we can get as many games as we can in this season. But I'd also like to thank Joe. This is our first 5 o'clock show. So we're obviously, like I said, you can see the different backgrounds. Studio B here down at Youngstown Studios. We wish everyone a great weekend. We will see you next week. Everyone have an awesome night. Take care.